Welcome to Lawbalization, making sense of the world, where legal insight meets global perspective. Join me, your host, Jonathan Bench, as I sit down with leaders and visionaries to explore how law and business shape the way we live, work, and think. Let's make sense of the world, one conversation at a time. Welcome to another episode of Lawbalization. Today I'm joined by Ms. Evelyne Mbula Nzuki, a multi-credentialed attorney based in Nairobi, Kenya. She is the founder and managing partner of MN Legal and co-founder of Tenakata Enterprises, a fintech company licensed by the Central Bank of Kenya, and both ventures have won awards in their industries. Mbula is an eclectic serial entrepreneur and investor in the fintech, construction, and jewelry industries, among others. Mbula, thank you for being on the show today.
Thank you so much for having me, Jonathan. It's a pleasure.
We have mutual friends, as we said. We haven't met in person yet, but I'm very much looking forward to coming to the continent sometime. Hopefully, I'm fingers crossed for 2027.
I have my fingers crossed for you. And as you say, we have mutual friends from Aija, so many of them. And we have events next year in Africa, different parts of Africa. So I have a feeling you will make it here.
Excellent. I'm looking forward to it. So let's start. Before we started recording, you and I were talking about your name. Can you explain a little bit about the way that you do naming for children in Kenya? I think it's extremely interesting.
Of course. Well, for my culture, I am from an ethnic group called Kamba. And basically, like many other ethnic groups within the country, and I believe the continent, most of us have two first names. The first one will potentially be a baptismal name, like a Christian name, such as Evelyn in my case. And now a second first name, which could also be called a middle name, which is usually from the family side. Mbula in my case is my father's late mother's name, my grandmother, my paternal grandmother's name, which I loved very much. It has a beautiful meaning. It means abundance and rain. So I love to keep my grandmother alive using this name. And then there is Nzuki, which is basically the surname. And in some instances, you get the larger family name. Yeah.
So interesting. Okay, now let's dive deeper into your background because you and I are just getting acquainted. I'd love to hear more of your background story and then how someone like you ended up. So you have so many varied interests. How did you end up in law ultimately? But give us the long story. I want the long version of where you came from.
No, being a lawyer for me, I actually thought I was going to end up in medicine because, like many students of my time or pupils at the time, we were very greatly inspired by Ben Carson, Dr. Ben Carson. So I read pretty much all his books, and I believed I would, like himself, become a neurosurgeon. Then, by the time I was making it to high school, from second last year to final, I changed my mind because I realized I was very eclectic. I had very many various interests, and my understanding at the time was that medicine is more a vocation as opposed to a profession, and I would need to be really dedicated. So I chose the path that would give me many lives. And law for me was a natural fit because as lawyers, we have many lives. You could be a lawyer in pretty much any industry and fuse various industries and likings in one to have a rich, fuller life. That was my take. That's how I ended up in law.
That's a great way of explaining it. I ended up in law kind of by accident because no one told me not to go to law school. No one. I joke that no one told me I should have gone to business school and just been on the business development side, gone into sales or something. So that's how I ended up in law. But I think I realized, like you, that law provides so many opportunities to be in so many industries. It's amazing. I tell people I work between low tech and high tech, and I love every single client, every single transaction that I get to be a part of because they're all interesting in their different ways.
Absolutely.
So you have built a career at the intersection of law, technology, finance, and sustainability. How did you get interested in each of those areas? We talked a little bit about law, but I'm interested in your tech, finance, sustainability, this cross-disciplinary approach to how you are approaching the entrepreneurial work you do, but also the clients that you represent in law.
Yeah, thank you. That's a brilliant question. So for me, basically how I ended up in tech was almost as an accident as well. I got approached by my co-founder for my other business, the fintech company, to come up with a project. Basically, at the time, he was pursuing his MBA at MIT, and he was looking for a project in line with his course at the time. And have always been very passionate about working with women and basically supporting women to have financially free lives. I'm a big proponent of financial freedom. And one way to do that is through education. So we basically came up with our idea to create a company around financial inclusion with some anchors such as financial literacy training. So that's how we ended up coming up with this fintech company, which is now currently doing very well in Kenya. We are licensed by Central Bank of Kenya. And with that, my interest in technology continued to grow. And coincidentally, I also ended up working and serving so many clients in tech as a lawyer. So tech chose me. I didn't choose tech, so to speak.
That's great. And now I want to zoom out a little bit and tell us what's happening in Kenya and in East Africa region more broadly. What should we know? You know, we all read international news and certain things pop when others don't. But I love hearing from my friends who are on the ground around the world. What what is the pulse of the nation right now? What's top of mind for people? What are some of the big issues that people are dealing with? Some of the big successes? Just give us a rundown of what you're seeing, what you're hearing, and kind of how's the outlook right now.
Okay, I will start a bit specifically, then go a bit generally. Currently, today in Kenya, if I were to be very frank with you, we just lost our former prime minister. So what's happening right now is a lot of love pouring out for the late premier, His Excellency Honorable Raila Omolo Odinga. So we have to acknowledge that he was a great figure who basically you can't talk about democracy in Kenya without referencing this particular giant of a man who is now a fallen giant. So I have to acknowledge that. But on to more general matters. In Kenya and East Africa at large, we are a very young continent, basically, as Africa. And this means that innovation, technology, it's bustling. This is why it's happening. We have so many companies that are coming to set up their headquarters, the operational headquarters, specifically in Kenya, because Kenya is a gateway to the rest of Africa and specifically East and Central Africa. So, including the UN is relocating a vast majority of its staff to this particular nation, Nairobi specifically. So we have, it's basically a melting point of everything from tech to business to innovation, everything you can think of. It's all happening here. Very exciting times. The Kenyan people are also growing as a collective. I'm sure you've seen on the news some of the democratic things that have been happening here, or at least pursuits with our Gen Zs trying to make their mark and have their voices heard as well on a political perspective. So it's a lot happening from business to technology to politics and democracy. It's all happening here all at the same time. Very stimulating times.
That's great. And are people generally upbeat right now? I know that AI is disrupting a lot of industries, things, at least in the US. That's the big news is that the industries are in upheaval because of how AI is radically changing things. Of course, we have President Trump doing interesting things with our counterparts around the world. But what is the general feel for? Is it generally optimistic? Is it cautiously optimistic? Kind of where would you put the general national sentiment about the future of the country?
No, I feel right now, Kenya, as I said, everything is happening. So there's a lot of optimism in the air because now the youth are able to, through innovation, get employment. We no longer have a lot of employment from the government. And I always find it unrealistic to think that governments will ever sufficiently employ their population. It's not really possible. But we're grateful that with AI, with technological advancements, the young people are able to come up with very exciting new careers, emerging careers for themselves. And this is happening here. So, like every other part in the world, Kenya is not any different. We've not been spared. There have been disruptions. Of course, there are some people who are lamenting because you know how it is. Whenever something is changing, some people will fall through the cracks. Not everyone can keep up. But at the same time, the ones who are switched on are happy and it's optimistic. Yeah.
Yeah, that's very helpful. So, as managing partner of your firm, you advise a wide range of clients from startups to high growth companies, multinationals, NGOs. What are some of the biggest legal and strategic challenges that you see these organizations facing right now?
I would say one on top of the list of the things that I would mention is definitely the disruptions from technology. Now that we are still on that particular point, I'm seeing most of them having to unlearn. And I feel like unlearning could be more potentially more important than the actual learning. That's a controversial statement, but I would look at it that way. So I've seen some of the clients grappling with trying to just unlearn their old tricks and try to catch up with changing times. Then, of course, there have been people have been talking about economies being harsh times, but at the same time, that's debatable because while everyone is crying about harsh economic times, which could be the truth for most people, others are really gaining big because of the same technology that others are complaining about. So everything has to be put in perspective. Coming closer home, there is obviously a lot of changes because of compliance. We now have a lot of ESG things to consider. We have emerging areas basically that now companies, whether small or big or medium or SMEs, have to now grapple with. They have to have considerations around ESG. We have the emerging technologies. We also have like a very work generation. When you look at employees, people are now very switched on with the kind of globalization. People are learning how things are done, for instance, in the US, and they want to have similar. We're borrowing cross culturally and cross geographically. So all these things are tough for some people for organizations rather, to learn and come to terms with. But at the same time, as long as you have the right attitude and adaptability, you can survive and weather the storm. So it's not all doom and gloom.
Yeah. So on the international side, you had mentioned relocation of UN offices. I'm assuming you have a pretty decent expat community in Nairobi, and people coming in doing business as this launching point to get to the rest of the continent. Where would you say a lot of the outbound investment is coming from? Is it Middle East? Is it Asia, US, from Europe? Where does that come from, and how? And I'm kind of curious generally the relationships when people look to do business outside, from outbound investment. Where are some of the hotspots that people like to go to if they're investing, doing business outside from Kenya outside? So kind of inbound, outbound, if I can ask both of those at the same time.
Hmm. Yeah, in terms of inbound, like people coming into Kenya, I would say Kenya, we are lucky to sort of be able to say we attract pretty much everyone. And this is because of Kenya's strategic positioning. When you think of Kenya geographically, it tends to be very strategically positioned. And then, of course, we come off as the main hub for East and Central Africa, like the gateway, basically. Political climates don't always believe everything you see. I know we always see the whatever makes it to international news will be the chaos, or the Gen Zs are protesting. But apart from that, Kenya is generally very peaceful. The people are very loving and warm people generally. And I'm not saying this because I'm Kenyan, by the way. It's the feedback we receive from every other person whenever we interact. The Kenyan people are warm people, very easy to do business, and also very business savvy. So that makes it very easy for inflows from pretty much the West, the East. It could be the Americas, Europe, Asia, all of it. You'll find it here. And you can see this by the kind of expat community we have here in the city and even elsewhere in other countries, I mean, in other cities in Kenya or towns. In terms of where Kenyans tend to invest, I would say Kenyans and Nigerians and the Chinese. If you go somewhere and they're not there, you might need to leave the place. So again, we tend to be all over the place because people want to explore. We are a very explorative nation. So yeah.
Interesting. So, do you say that anywhere you go, you'll run into someone from China, someone from Nigeria, someone from Kenya? Is that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if they're and Indians, of course. And if they're not there, you might want to ask yourself why.
It's a good leading indicator.
Yeah, so that's interesting. Indians, Chinese, Nigerians, and of course Kenyans. Yeah.
I love it. So you are a strong advocate for using business as a force for good, and even felt that today as we've talked, as you've mentioned across different industries and your experiences you had. How do you think that lawyers and entrepreneurs can really work together to balance profitability with social and environmental responsibility?
It's a really good question. Yeah, indeed, I believe business should and must be used as a force for good. And one of the ways that we could do that is by embedding the strong values, social values in the profit margins. Like one of the quotes that I like to live by is that separation is the greatest illusion. Please don't ask me to quote or reference who say this particular quote, but I know it exists. So separation is the greatest illusion. I don't believe in separating pretty much anything. We are all really interconnected. Same thing applies even in business. And because of business profitability, for instance, let's talk about ESG for a hot minute. When you look at the way ESG is and some of the challenges that people grapple with when they're trying to introduce ESG to their organizations, I always say try and make it make sense for all stakeholders from a bottom line perspective. If you're able to weave profit and good together, then I feel like everyone wins, all the stakeholders all round, and sustainability. For if you're looking to have sustainable businesses, then you can't separate good, you can't separate profit. You have to have them. It's a happy marriage for longevity. So I think that this is how business it has to be done. Business is a force for good.
Excellent. Love it. I want to hear a little bit more about your entrepreneurial ventures. Can you give us a rundown of maybe some of the things that you're really proud of in the businesses you've been involved in as an entrepreneur? I think you and I and those of us who end up in this space, we tend to be very entrepreneurial ourselves. We are on the legal side maybe because we're a little less willing to put everything at risk like some of our entrepreneurial clients. But I find that lawyers who are in the entrepreneurial space tend to be very entrepreneurial themselves, and sometimes it's just from being around other entrepreneurs. You get infected with this idea that everything is doable. You can definitely find a way through it. So I'm curious, the jewelry, whether it's the jewelry or more about fintech. I'm really interested to hear more about how you got into these businesses and how you managed to juggle all of the things you're doing.
That's a really good question. I would actually start by saying that being a founder and a managing partner for MN Legal, I always try and remind myself that this too is a business. It's a venture like any other. And the reason why this is important for us as lawyers is because I don't know how it is for you, where you come from, but for us here, you find that in law school, we're just taught the law, basically, the practice of law, which is good. However, nobody ever really takes a pause to talk about the business of law. And that's something I went into setting up my law firm very alive to. And I set out to have a marriage between the practice of the law and the business of the law. Because if you're going to have a sustainable law firm, one that is making profit, paying its employees well, and also doing good by through CSR ventures and what have you, you have to definitely make sure that you take a business approach and marry that to the nobility of the profession. So I don't like separating those two. So the law firm is a business as well.
Oh, it is very much. I
Yes.
joke with young lawyers, and I think I discovered this on my own. I wasn't really trying to understand it this way because when you're a young lawyer, all you think is, I'm going to work hard, then I'll make partner, then life will be easier because I'll have more money and I'll be able to push work down to other people. But the thing that no one tells you, and I think this is true in other professionals as well, take healthcare professionals, when you go from being a fee earner to owner of the business, there are some real important shifts in the mind that happen. And I joke with young lawyers. I said, did you know that once you become a partner, you're now an entrepreneur? Like, did you go to law school because you wanted to be an entrepreneur? Because that's where you're headed. And sometimes I get blank stares or wide eyes in there as they start calculating and thinking, wow, I'm no longer just, I don't no longer just have the work fed to me. Now I have to go and build. I have to provide the environment. I have to plant the seeds. I don't know if you found that with your younger lawyers you've been interacting with, but to me, even as someone who is business minded as a young lawyer, when I figured that out, I thought, holy cow, why aren't we teaching this in law schools better?
Yeah. No, absolutely. I have experienced this as well. I've observed it as well with the younger as well as the older. And we also have to understand that not everyone is cut out to be an entrepreneur, and that's completely okay. Not
Yes.
everyone can set up their own law firm, and that's absolutely okay. So for us who have this other age, it's just good on us, and that's fine as well.
Well, that's the other thing you learn about in startups as well, right? Is everyone has their role. Initially, the founders take on everything, but ideally, you start dividing the labor because not everyone's going to be interested in finance, not everyone's going to be interested in business development, in operations. Same thing in a law firm context where we think sometimes that everyone comes with the same skill set and interest, but we do diverge quite a bit.
Absolutely, yeah. So I would say I'm with you on that. And now speaking on the other ventures, how like apart from the law firm, I am co-founder of the Fintech, which I'm genuinely very, very happy and proud of, Tenakata. This is because Tenakata is truly about financial inclusion. First of all, the name Tenakata, which was chosen by my co-founder, Sebi Salim, is a Maasai word. I'm sure you've heard of the Maasai people of East Africa.
You need to educate me. No, please educate me. I need this education.
Yeah, so I will have to send out you the pictures of the Maasai people, very beautiful, mostly very tall. They will have done a bit more adjustments to their ears, and they're very eclectic as well. So they're very interesting people. And every time you think of Kenya, you will see the Maasai people. Whenever you Google the Kenyan people, I think they're some of the top people who come up. However, I must point out, like the Maasai people are not just Kenyan people; they are East African generally. So we share them across Kenya, Tanzania, and I also believe Rwanda and Uganda. You will find them across. The borders are just a bit artificial, but let's
Sure,
not go
sure.
down that road.
I know that's for another episode. We'll talk about borders in Africa. Yeah,
Exactly. Yeah. So the Maasai word Tenakata, I'm not pronouncing it very well because I'm not Maasai, means now. So when he presented this name, I was like, this is fantastic. The time is now for us to introduce financial inclusion in our business and with the people, the fantastic women and young people, both male and female, who we work with. And we provide them capital. This is what Tenakata does. We give them very affordable working capital and also offer them financial literacy. Basically, we educate them to create financially viable businesses. So I am very passionate about this and I'm very proud of the amazing, amazing team of Tenakata because I am able to focus on ML legal as much as I do because I have an amazing team that backs us up there. We are over 140 employees in Tenakata, which is
wow,
amazing,
amazing. Yeah,
and we have 23 branches and counting across Kenya. So I can't do it. I can't even take any credit for Tenakata, to be honest. We have an amazing team that handles that. And that helps me to focus on my passions, even as I continue to work with Tenakata and for Tenakata. Yeah, so that's just one of them. For jewelry, I'm a girl. I love beauty. I love
I
the
noticed
beauty
your
industry.
earrings. Your earrings are fantastic.
Thank you so much. Yeah. So this came to me because of my former classmate in high school, Maureen Carter. She approached me. She was in Harvard. She wanted to have a project. So she approached me. I think I'm a great co-founder. I get approached quite a lot to co-found businesses. So she approached me. She told me she wanted to have a partner for her project at the time at school. And we were like, okay, let's do the jewelry business where we would source for jewelry from across different parts of Africa and for export purposes for the US market. Yeah, so this was beautiful. It was easy, and it was also a way of ensuring that the amazing artisans of Africa get to, this is how all these designer entities and brands kind of grew. You have to start somewhere. Someone has to believe in you. Yeah, and before you knew it, it was up and running. Then I realized there's only one of me. I can't spread myself too thin. So I have now adopted more of an investor approach where if I'm able to invest in a business and be hands off and just maybe do advisory from a board position, that's what I've been doing for all the others. I have had a stint though in construction where I actually had my own active construction firm before I now took a different laid back approach. And while I'm an investor in them, I'm not involved in the day to day, but I love them. They open my mind quite a bit.
That is a very different industry than law and jewelry, I would think.
Yes, it's a very, yeah, it's very capital intensive, first of all. It's a different ball game. The stakes are super high. Chances are, if you're doing anything worth its salt, you'll end up working for government or finding yourself in some PPP projects. But again, that's a different conversation for another day. It can be very
Sure.
political as well.
Is there is there still a lot of infrastructure development going on in Kenya? Is that a big part of what's happening?
Absolutely, yeah. There's quite a lot. We are still a young nation, only 60 something years. So you can imagine we have roads under construction, buildings coming up. Nairobi, every new day, everywhere you turn, there is a new building coming up. So
Sounds fascinating. I can't wait to come.
I look forward to having you here.
So let's pivot for a minute now because you are not a typical entrepreneur. You are an entrepreneur who also has multiple law degrees. How does the entrepreneurial journey and mindset shape the way that you now practice law and advise your clients?
Mm, brilliant question. Thank you. Being an entrepreneur myself, I basically am able to put myself in the shoes of my clients and fully understand their pain points because anything they would be going through, I potentially might have gone through or observed from a very close proximity. And that makes me a different lawyer. My mindset is that of it's a very commercially charged mindset or a different approach. I just don't know the text of the law. I know the text of the law, but it doesn't stop there. I know the application of the law as far as a business environment is concerned. I'm able to anticipate things. And when it comes to my value proposition, I'm not just telling them, this is what I can do for you as a lawyer. I almost take a strategic advisory position for most of my clients as well. So it's a more of a holistic approach, which I realize my clients truly appreciate if their feedback is anything to go by. And I'm grateful that I was able to expose myself the way I have been able to.
It's wonderful. I didn't prep you for this question, but tell me what you're doing when you're not working or being an entrepreneur. What kind of things, if I'm coming as a tourist or I'm coming, like, what are the ways to really kick back and enjoy a time in Nairobi? Is it the food scene? Do you have outdoor activities? What are the kinds of things that someone might expect if they were to just pop in and say, Mbula, I'm coming to visit. What are we going to do for a day?
Okay, that's a good question. And thank you for contextualizing it because I was about to tell you, I love to travel. The travel bug beat me so hard, so I'm all over the place. However, when I'm in Kenya, what I love to do, if I'm not being truly a homebody, because I'm very much a homebody, which is hard for many people to believe, and reading my books at home, I would definitely be out in somewhere sampling Kenyan food. I am not a certified foodie yet, but I have an amazing crowd of friends who love to sample Kenyan food, and Kenyan food is amazing. Even though I know my West African friends will have something to say about that, you better stop them before they do. Yeah, so Kenyan food is amazing. It's just that they say it's not as spicy as they like to have it. But yeah, it's amazing. It's eclectic. So we'll be out hanging out with my friends. There's a new spot opening every other day in Kenya. You can't have enough restaurants or like just lounges and stuff. So we'll be out there. Something else I truly love to do is I like to go on safaris. And luckily for us, I live in the only city in the world that has a national park in the middle of the city.
Wow.
Yes, Nairobi is that place for you. And I'm not even overselling it, trust me. So I like to go out on a safari on a random Saturday with my friends. And there is in the Nairobi National Park, there are two amazing lodges just somewhere hidden in there in the park itself. So I like to go and have amazing relaxed lunch. One of them is a Lolo Lodge. They have not paid me to advertise or anything. I really truly love them. And you'll just be sitting there overlooking the national park and just enjoying some ugali. Ugali is a Kenyan dish, which is my favorite. So yeah,
And what is in that dish? Just so I know.
it's
It's
corn flour. It's made from corn flour. Yeah. So some people will try and maybe put some butter in it, and you usually have it with some vegetables and perhaps some meat. You could have it with beef, chicken, anything you want, or some curry. Basically, I love it. It's my favorite dish.
sounds amazing. I have time for one last question, I think, before we have to sign off. How do you see, what advice do you have for people who, businesses especially, who are considering Africa for the first time? What advice do you have about how to navigate the market, how to navigate the culture? What should they expect, or should they just generally keep their mind very open about doing business there?
Hmm. I would say having an open mind is always advisable for any new market so that you can definitely learn the culture. It's very good that when you're doing business, you sort of honor the cultures that you're going, the new culture that you're introducing your business in. However, just like any other place you're going to open a business, I would say try and get the proper advisory from trusted professionals. You obviously need to work with a lawyer, a trusted lawyer. You want to have an accountant in your corner. You want to have, if depending on the industry, someone who can do some market survey for you and do your research basically. But Kenya is one of the easiest places to do business. If I'm being very frank with you, most of the things are very automated. Anything you might have a question about, Google will already put you onto something. But of course, Google is not a lawyer, so you need to work with the professionals, as I said. Then we are very keen on enabling business. The business environment right now is very enabling, especially for entrepreneurs or even multinationals looking to come and have a branch here or a subsidiary, anything you're thinking of. Yeah, then just, of course, the goodwill of the local community. If you're going anywhere, it's always important and wise that you have the goodwill of the right people. So this would be my advice, and keep an open mind and just learn to roll with the punches like true entrepreneurs do.
Wonderful. Mbula, thank you for your time today. It's been so fun getting to know you, and I can't wait to catch up again in the future.
Thank you so very much for having me. And yeah, this has been fantastic. Thanks.